Hello everyone, this is Satish Kumar. I am here with another lesson for Indian economy. This is my lesson on Indian economy during 1950 to 1991. That is, before Indian economy started the economic reforms in 1991. Okay, the performance of Indian economy between independence to 1991. Okay, and there is a reason why I stopped my previous lesson on planning at the 1990 level, because I want to differentiate between the period of Indian economy between that is before liberalization and after liberalization, that is before economic reforms and after economic reforms. Okay, and in this lesson we will particularly learn about the Indian economic's performance before liberalization, that is before economic reforms in 1991. uh, One reason I haven't used the word economic reforms, that is India before economic reforms, is, see, economic reforms is everything that is done for the economy is economic reforms. So the thing that was done in 1991, no, is not only the economic reforms. Whatever that is being done in the 1950s is also economic reform technically. But when we talk about economic reforms in India, we talk only about what what the decision that India took in 1991. Hence, I using the technical word, that is India before LPG, that is before India liberalized, privatized and globalized, that is before 1991. Okay, what was India's performance? See, when India achieved independence, India was at a very poor state. Okay, India had a lot of problem. We were there is widespread poverty. Our agriculture was in crisis. There is no industrial development, no service sector development. Um, People are suffering. There is no education. The death rate is high. Sorry, the infant mortality rate was high. All sort of problem. No health issue, healthcare development. India had a lot of issues. Okay, so India has to start to build itself. So at that time, the first plan focused on agriculture, but the second plan focused on industrial development, which India felt that only by developing industry India could grow faster. So India went for industrial development by the second plan in 1956. And when India went for industrial development, the problem for the industrial development in India is the private sector doesn't have enough capital to invest for the development of industries. Hence, the government decided that the industrial development in India has to be state led, that is government finance. That is why we see a lot of public sector development in India in the initial stage. Okay, and this central role of the government, no, the central role of government doing playing a major role in the economy, that is public sector development, dominated until 1990s, or at least until 1980s. Only in the 80s India started slightly relaxing, but it continued until 1990, to say it clearly. Only after the economic reforms were taken, uh, only when the economy was liberalized in the 1991, this changed. Okay, so we could say the period from 1950 to 1990 is a period of public sector led development in India. Okay, that is very, very important. The period between 1950s to 1990s is public sector led development in India, and industrial development, or on a whole, okay, the economy grew. And there was also another thing called license permit quota Raj in India. Okay, although India went for public sector India did not abolish entirely the private sector like the Soviet Union did. India said that there will be private sector, but it restricted the private sector by what is known as license system. Okay, so it reserved a lot of industries for public sector. It gave few industries to the private sector, and even here they have to get a license and permission from the government to um start a new industry. Okay, and that is what called the license permit quota raj. Okay, so here the government not only decided what is to be produced by the private sector, it also decided how much to be produced, the amount of production. That is what called as quota raj. Okay, so government decided what private could produce and how much they could produce, and to produce that they have to get the permission of the government, that is licensing. So this resulted in what is known as license permit quota raj, and it actually not helped for the development of India. The growth rate declined because of this. Okay, and industries did not come faster in India. And with the nationalization of banks in 1969 and the MRTP Act in 1979, all this strengthened this license Raj. So that is why the period was also known as license Raj system. Okay, the 1950s to 1990. At one end, it is public sector led development. At the second, it is license permit quota Raj. Okay, and since license has to be obtained from the government officials, the bureaucratic department, which is plagiarized by red tapeism and corruption, as a result, the development of industries were very slow. Also, because of these two reasons, there is a lot of scarcity of resources. Since lot of things are not produced in the economy, people have to rely on what is produced and given to the people. Okay, the choices that the people can avail is very little. If you had lived in the generation of 1960 to 1990, no, in fact I have my childhood in the 1980s. Okay, I know something about this. In fact, my parents who lived in the previous generation would have suffered a lot. I somehow got escaped because I also witnessed during my teen years the liberalized world. Okay, so but I also seen the 1980s, which were a period, you know, there is lot of scarcity of resources. Today we have everything, we have plenty of choices in everything, but that was not the case in the uh, pre-liberalized era. There is a huge scarcity of resource, and the choice for people for goods were very limited. In fact, if you know that there are only one or two televisions, and even to get that television we have to pre-book, and it will come very after late time. Okay, that is known as the solitaire and Philips. Very few televisions. There are only few bikes, there are only ambassador car and Maruti cars, like that there are plenty of things. Okay, so I'm just giving a few examples. Okay, in today we are having everything. In fact, for all products we have plenty of choices, and this is possible only because of liberalization. Before liberalization this was not possible. Okay, so we have to understand that. And another thing about this license Raj system is, it did not if a company wanted to expand production, no, if it has to obtain a license, and this license, as I said earlier, no, it is not easy to get a license for to go, because the bureaucratic department to get some license. For example, if you seen films, no, like Shivaji, Rajinikanth would try to start a new film institution, but he will face a lot of bottlenecks, right? in the government departments asking plenty of forms. Okay, that is one of the biggest problem, and that is what also known as ease of doing business. Okay, when there is this license raj system, no, there is not ease of doing business. In fact, in recent times, this environment has reduced a lot. Okay, in fact, India is improving itself. The ease of doing business is improving in India, but India still have to go a long way. In fact, India doesn't have still a competitive manufacturing sector. That is why our manufacturing is not growing. That is why we are not able to compete with the other countries. In fact, smaller countries like Vietnam are attracting more industrial investment and industries than are, because and they are able to capture market in the world trade better than us. Okay, when China loses some market, it is captured by Vietnam rather than us. Okay, that is because our manufacturing is not competitive, our prices are so high. Okay, and the product that we produce are not as cheap as other countries. Okay, that is also the reason why recently India did not join the RCEP. Okay, see, when we join a trade deal like RCEP, we will get benefit, but we are fearing to join the deal because we feel that we are not competitive enough to compete with them. When a country like Vietnam was willing to compete with China, India is fearing to compete with China. That is that is not good for India, right? India is a far bigger country than Vietnam. Vietnam is trying to compete with China by joining this RCEP deal, but India is fearing to join. That is because we have this problem of the ease of doing business and the competitiveness of the Indian industries are not as competitive as other countries. Okay, that's a different story. We'll see that later. Now, see, the license Raj created this what is we are experiencing today. Okay, because of this licensing Raj, industries did not develop, and business has to get license, and the license are not easily available, and often these licenses were used by big industries that are previously there, no, they bought these licenses to not allow others to start new industries. For example, if you see the recent film, the Surya Reporter, no, if you see, no, you will find that Surya is trying to start a new airlines, but his aim will be throttled by the other guy. Okay, and it was a true story actually. In fact, it was a true story that happened in India. So the big industrialist was trying to stop the smaller budding entrepreneur to start a new enterprises. That was possible in this license Raj system, and as a result, Indian economy did not grow as Indian industries did not grow. The competitiveness of Indian was throttled because of this reason. Okay, see, a big industry was not willing to compete with the budding entrepreneur, and he want to use unfair method to stop him to grow. That shows how corrupt he is and what kind of service that we could expect from him. Only when, in fact, in that film, if you see the Air Deccan promoter, he was actually trying to provide uh, lesser price fare air trade, freight trade, freight travel, and that is good for the consumers. But by this license Raj system, what happened is somebody like could not come to the market because he would be stopped by this license Raj system. That is what plagued Indian industry for a long time between 1950 to 1990s. Okay, and as a result, by the towards the end of the 1990s, no, in fact, it started in the 1970s itself. Our balance of payment crisis started beginning. Okay, India was having very less export, and India was importing lot of thing, and as a result we could not our balance of payment crisis was huge. Okay, and it worsened to the extent in the 1990s that we don't have money to pay more than 14 days of balance of payment crisis. Okay, and that is why we have to go knock the door of IMF and World Bank for support, and they asked us to reform our economy. Okay, so that is what happened between 1950 to 1980. Okay, so this is a brief introduction. I will give you in full what happened to the different sectors. Okay, first in what are the steps taken between 1950 to 1990 to improvement in different sectors. First we will talk about agriculture. In fact, India felt that at the time of independence our agriculture is at a distressed state because of the British land reform policies. The British followed different types of policies, no, and as a result there is an unequal distribution of land ownership in India. So India decided to go for land reforms in 19 after independence. So this they wanted for the change in ownership of landholding. Okay, and in order to abolish the intermediaries. Okay, the idea is it will provide incentive to the peasants, that is the tillers of the land, and he will improve invest, and this will lead to improvement in agriculture. Okay, the second thing that in the agriculture they did is they went for land ceiling, that is fixing the maximum size of the land that any particular individual could hold. Okay, so this was again aimed at to reduce the concentration of land ownership in few hands, in few people hands. Okay, these two steps were taken. So whether India succeeded in the land reforms is a different question. India failed miserably in land reform. India did not achieve the kind of land reforms that the Soviet Union achieved. Okay, so India was not able to fully abolish the intermediaries. Okay, so the jamindars, the intermediaries, no, the landowners, no, they find huge loopholes in our legislative structure to escape. Okay, and the political will at the time was not as strong, and as a result the land reforms failed miserably. Okay, also the land ceiling legislation also faced hurdles because uh, landlords challenged this in the court, and they used the time delay in the court implementation, no, they used this time to change the register their lands in the name of their close relatives, and they were able to escape from this from the land ceiling laws. Okay, and the land reforms was had very little success in Kerala, successful in particular areas like Kerala and West Bengal. Okay, because the government in this place were very committed, but otherwise land reform failed miserably. We will learn about land reforms when we study about agriculture in deep, but this is a brief introduction. Okay. Then after that, since land reform failed, India went for green revolution. In fact, without green revolution, I cannot imagine what would happen to India. In fact, green revolution was something that saved India. Okay, since land reform failed, at that time, the right time, the green revolution came, and it was helped us to overcome the stagnation in agriculture, and it resulted in large increase in production of food grains. Um, it used what is known as high yield variety seeds. Again, we will learn about green revolution in detail in the agriculture topic. Here we are seeing the important things. Okay, so see, the green revolution required the high yield variety seeds. No, this required high amount of fertilizer and pesticides to be used, and also regular supply of water. Okay, and as a result, this could not be um, carried out or implemented in all areas of India. So it was restricted to states that could do this, affluent states like Punjab, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Only these went for earlier Green Revolution in the 1960s and 1970s. Only in the second phase in the 1980s, the Green Revolution spread to other countries. Okay, and because of Green Revolution, India was able to achieve self-sufficiency in food production. Okay, and because of Green Revolution also, we dropped the idea of land reforms. Okay, somehow our that present need was solved. Okay, and this success was not sustained. In fact, the Green Revolution later proved to be disastrous for further sustainable development. Okay, sustainable agriculture. We will see that. The Green Revolution helped to produce surplus in wheat and rice, no, and some of these surplus were sold by the farmers in the market, and because of this, the prices of the food grains declined. Okay, and this benefited large in low income groups people, because they spend a large amount of money on food, and since the price of food grains decline, no, it will have some extra amount for them to spend on other things that will help for the economy to grow. See, here is this one thing India failed to understand in the earlier period, in the 1950s, that India thought that the industry will grow and India will modernize, but India failed to realize that there is a link between agriculture development and industrial development. Whenever India is having a high agriculture development, there will be equally good industrial development. Whenever India is facing a low agriculture development, the industry will also drop. So agriculture will be a support for industry. But India, instead of putting agriculture as the prime moving force, in the 1950s, it termed industry as the prime moving force. Okay, in the 1956, they thought industry will be the prime moving force of the economy, rather than realizing the fact that agriculture is the prime moving force. This was changed only in 2002. For a long time they failed to realize this. Okay, in fact, that is one reason our agriculture did not what you say uh, witness strong growth. Okay, agriculture has always been stagnant despite having a green revolution. Okay, as I said earlier, no, the green revolution was not free from risk. Okay, it created a huge inequality between small and big farmers. Okay, since only the big farmers could carry the green revolution, because it required a lot of inputs like high pesticides and other things. Okay, and also these high yielding variety crops are more prone to attack, no. So the kind of inputs that are required to for implementing the green revolution is not easy for a small farmer. Only big farmer could go for it. In order to solve this problem, the government provided loans at low interest rate to small farmers, and also they subsidize the fertilizers, since green revolution require a lot of fertilizers. So both these things the government did. Okay, but whether providing continuous subsidies is a useful one or not, there was a debate. Okay, see, the subsidies has to be provided to a farmer when government is coming with something like a high yield variety technology, because it is something new, and something new is always risky, and farmers will be very skeptical of its use. So in order to encourage them to use this, no, the government has to provide subsidies. Okay, and once if it is profitable, the farmer will continue it. Okay, but the subsidies that are provided in India, no, were not actually reaped by the to whom it is provided. For example, the government intention is to help the small farmers, but rather than the subsidies are the substantial amount of a fertilizer subsidy, no, benefited the fertilizer industry. Okay, also only large farmers benefited by the credit that is available given to the by subsidies. Okay, the low interest rate credit and all of the benefits. No, the large farmers benefited from it, and the affluent farmers benefited from it. The small farmers could not have access to it. Therefore, there was a debate whether India has to continue the fertilizer subsidies, okay, because it is not benefiting the target group, okay, and it is also having a huge burden on the government finance, okay. But there was also other groups saying that since agriculture subsidy are very crucial and agriculture is a risky business and farmers need support from the government, it has to be continued, and without it there will be further increase in inequality, hence it has to be continued. Okay, they said that if the subsidy is not reaching the right person, we have to take measures to ensure that it is reaching the target group rather than abolishing the subsidies. Okay, this is one discussion regarding subsidies. One of the see, government providing welfare to people, government giving subsidies, government giving other non-planned expenditure, no, which are for the benefit of people, is not a wastage money. But how it becomes wastage is if it is not given to the targeted group, that is from who it is spent. The biggest problem in India is when government is spending something, it is not going to the people that it is intending. For example, Nehru itself said, if 1 rupees is spent, only 15 paisa is reaching the poor. The 85 paisa is pocketed by other groups, right? The corrupt politicians, business, trade, intermediaries, everybody. Okay, that is bigger problem in India. Okay, and India is trying to overcome this. So any economist will never say that India should not offer subsidy. The subsidies that are offered should be used for the right purpose, and India is for long time facing issue with this. Okay. Then we will see the occupational structure of the economy. See, any country which is growing, no, which is becoming prosperous, no, what will happen is the proportion of GDP contributed by agriculture will come down and the population depending on agriculture will come down. Okay. So, when India was growing, the proportion of GDP contributed to agriculture came down, but the proportion of population working in the agriculture, no, did not decline as much as the proportion of GDP. That is, agriculture at present is around 15 to 20%, the growth rate GDP, but the population is still around 45 to 50%. So still 45 to 50% people are still in the agriculture sector. That is one problem in India, occupational structure. One of the issues of India that is caused by the 1950 to 19 growth period. Okay, what happened was, in the in fact, this 40% is reduced in the 1990s to 2020. In fact, at the independence time, 67.5% people were in agriculture, and in 1990 it was 64.9%. So there was a huge failure in shifting the population dependent on agriculture to the industrial and service sector, because both the industrial and service sector failed to absorb these people. Okay, in fact, India industrial sector did not ever become a major part of the economy. Okay, that is more than 50% of the GDP never came from India. India reached somewhere around 40%, but at present it is stagnating between 20 to 30%. Okay, so Indian industrial sector, one of the biggest problem is it never grow, and failure of this industrial sector was one of the reason for not absorbing the uh, population which is dependent on agriculture. Okay, and the service sector, even though it is employing a large chunk of people at today and it is contributing the highest in the GDP, it cannot absorb many people. Okay, it is just absorbing 25 to 30% of the people. Okay, that is why India still has a large number of people as discussed unemployed in the agriculture sector. And many economics also feel it is a failure of the policies that is followed between 1950 to 1990. Okay, then we will come to the industry and trade between 1950 to 1990. See, uh, uh, any country which is planning to develop, no, uh, industry is very important. Okay, uh, development of industry is very important. In fact, India realized that fact. That is why a plan all stressed that, and Nehru itself felt that industrial sector is very important, and that is why they laid such a emphasis on industrial sector. Okay, and only industrial sector will bring more employment, and it will provide modernization and also prosperity. So, but our industrial sector, since the private industrialists during the earlier times in the 1950s lacked capital, were mostly started by public sector, that is government. So the government played a major role, okay, in the promotion of industries. So this started by the Industrial Policy Resolution in 1956, which had we will study in detail when we are studying industries about industrial policy and all other things. We will see briefly here. Okay, so this resolution classified the industries into three categories. Okay, uh, and it put a lot of industries in the first category, which are exclusively owned by the state, and any industry regarding these products, no, will be produced by the government. The industry will be started by the government. Then they had the second category of industry, in which the government will play a major role. There will also be private sector supplemented, and the private sector also will not start a new organization in this category. So again, majority of this will be owned by public sector. Then they left a third category, which had the remaining industries, in which the private sector can start units. But even here they put what is known as, we said earlier, no, the uh, license Raj system. Okay, so any new industry, if it has to start, it has to get a license. It has to obtain a license from the government. This policy of licensing, no, why it was used? There was a logic behind it. Okay, in fact, India felt at the time there is not unequal development of certain areas. Okay, regional inequality development. For example, areas like Madras, Bengal, Bombay were well developed, but other areas were very poor, northeast or Bihar and other areas. Okay, so they wanted to promote industries in these backward region. So by this licensing method, what they did is, if I want to start a business in Madras, since Madras is already having enough businesses, they won't give up license permit. They will give me a license to start an industry in a remote region where there is no industries. Okay, so that is what the logic behind this. But this logic also have a defect. That is, what is that defect? See, according to the management theory of plant location, that is industrial start, no, the the industry that is should be started should have certain things closer to it. Okay, like labor, like access to capital, access to raw material, access to other resources, and everything. Failing which, a industry cannot survive in a remote region. Okay, and this policy actually, uh, instead of promoting uh, industry in the backward region, stagnated industry promotion in general. Okay, industry did not grow. Okay, uh, so the purpose was to promote industry in backward region and to avoid promote regional equality, but rather than it worked against promotion of industry in general. Okay, and we saw earlier how the license was used by big industries to not allow the smaller budding entrepreneurs to start in new enterprises. Okay, and also government regulated too much, plenty of laws. In fact, our industrial laws are no, and as a result, red tapeism and corruption, our industries did never grow uh, as it should have grown. Okay, then there is small scale industry. So around 1955, a committee was there appointed called Carvey Committee on Village and Small Scale Industries, and this committee said that the small scale industries are very much important for promoting rural development, since rural area are not well developed. No, it said that small scale industries will play a major role in development of these industries. And small scale industries are determined uh, by the concept of investment. Okay, if the maximum investment is 5 lakh in the 1950s, it is called a small scale industry. At present it is 5 crore. Okay, every time it was introduced as per the situation. Okay, why the developmental of small scale industries? See, the small scale industries are labor intensive. Since a small scale industry will be not capital intensive, they won't invest. Small scale industry, they won't invest too much capital. No, they will include more labor, and it will create employment. Okay, since India is a labor rich country, this industry will create employment. Okay, that is the idea behind, and and it is for this purpose, no, the government has reserved a lot of industries for small scale industry only. Those industries, production should be done only by small scale industry. Again, this also can act as a negative. Okay, the government intention is by reserving some industries for small scale so that it will generate more employment, but that industry will not grow as a result, because it is not employed more capital, and it is not involved, the competitors of the industry will lack. Okay, please remember this point, since they are not going to use much technology and other things. Okay, then we will see about the trade policy that India followed between 1950 to 1990, that is with the world external trade. Okay, see, India, the trade policy of India, that is with the world. Okay, characterized by what is known as inward looking trade strategy. That is, we wanted to be a closed economy. Okay, we wanted our domestic production to be there. We don't want to import much from others. Okay, that is what the policy followed, known as import substitution. Rather than importing products from other countries, we want to produce those goods. Okay, so to avoid other products coming into India, India protected the domestic industry from foreign competition. This India did by protecting imports coming into India by two methods. One is tariff and other is quotas. Okay, tariff is imposing tax on goods coming from other countries. Okay, India had a huge tax, that is the tariffs. Okay, that is imposed on goods coming from other countries. As a result, those goods, when it comes to India, the price will rise because of the tariff that is imposed on those goods. Okay, since the price rise, those goods could not get market in India, since it would become higher for than the domestically produced value, even if the product quality is good. Okay, and then there will also be quotas specified. The quotas system is known as how much quantity can a foreign country trade with India. There are limits. Okay, and all these tools are aimed at, why the government aimed at, no, there is a logic behind this, because they want our industry to develop, to produce, our domestic production to increase, rather than foreign companies starting investment, because India has been ruled by 200 years by British, so they don't want foreigners to dominate India, so they want our industries to develop. That is why they went for tariffs and quotas. Okay, but the problem with tariff and quota is it will restrict imports, and it will protect the domestic firms from foreign competition, but it will also make people, the products that is produced in India, no, the value, there will be lesser products, there would not be too many products as said earlier. Then the Indians domestic production units are protected from competition from foreign goods, and as a result they won't focus on improving the products. Okay, in fact in recent times we see the government banning apps like TikTok. Okay, and government is citing reasons like saying that it is banning it because it want security concern, but the real reason I think it is not security. The real reason may be it wanted to avoid China capturing so much of market in India, because TikTok is huge market in India. In fact, there are also Indian apps like TikTok, but when it comes to competition, the Indian products that are offered similar to TikTok, no, are not capturing the market. TikTok is capturing. That is the problem with India's any industry that is in India. They are not competitive. The Chinese success is because they are very competitive. If you see TikTok, it is liked by everyone, but there are other apps like TikTok which are similar to TikTok, which are not having that much of good features. That is why it is not succeeding with TikTok. That is the problem with India, and because of this reason also the present government of Modi wanted to come out of RCEP, because it fears that it will lose in the competitiveness with China. Okay, and lot of economists are criticizing Modi because it is once again reform oriented, a developmental oriented Prime Minister like Modi is also going for the trade policy like import substitution that we went in the 1960s and 70s, because only when we let our domestic manufacturing unit to compete with the foreigners, no, only then we will ensure that our industries also remain competitive. Our industry, since it was long protected, it remained in not competitive, it remained stagnant, it never became competitive. Now it is once again being protected. Okay, in fact since reform 1991 reform, it is almost like 30 years, and one of the problem for India is still India's industry not become competitive enough to beat competitors like Vietnam and other smaller countries. Okay, that is why a lot of people are criticizing. Still India is having one of the highly tariff country, huge tariffs, and joining this RCEP would require India to lesser our tariff. Still India is having a lot of quotas. Still India is protecting. Still India is, that is reason our competitors remain very less. So countries has to move from this protectionism thing. Okay, so why countries go for protectionism, this kind of protectionism the Modi is going, no, at present, why they are doing this, that Indira Gandhi did, right? See, it is because of the notion that the industries in the developing countries are not in a position to compete with the goods that are produced by a more competitive or a developed country. Okay, in fact, when we went in the 1950s and 60s, there was a reason, because we were not that developed. We were a very poor country. We were only on the stage of development our industries. So at that time it was okay. But now India has become aspiring to become a leading nation, developed nation. India has develops to a great extent. At this point of time, we have to let our industry compete with the world leaders, most competitive firms. Still protecting our industries will make only our industries further inefficient. Okay, that is the idea that is given by economists. Okay, so if the domestic industries are protected, no, the idea is they will learn in time to become very competitive. But how long you are going to give the time, that is the fact. Okay, the question of this people are saying. So there should be a sunset clause, that is we will have tariffs and quotas for a period, we will reduce slowly. In fact the RCP even offered that, for example, up to 25 years. Okay, in fact that is why a lot of people are saying India should have joined RCEP. There are also people who are saying that India not joining RCEP was a good reason, because India is having a huge trade deficit with China, and joining RCEP would only increase that trade deficit, and India is not competitive enough. That is our fault. Okay, that is a different story. Okay, so why this kind of protectionism? Because we fear the possibility of foreign goods coming into our country, and our balance of payments will that is the trade balance will be favorable for other countries. Okay, that is why we are going for this kind of measures. Okay, so what are all these are all the things that were done between 1950 to 1990, and what were the effect of all these policies on the industrial development. Okay, see, between 1950 to 1990, India grew. Okay, there is no doubt about it. In fact, it was good. India was very poor in the 1950s. So India grew. There was a 11.8% growth in 1950-51 in the industrial sector. It was increased to 24.6 in 1990, and there was a 6% annual growth rate of industrial sector. Okay, and there was a lot of industries development in India, and there was also promotion of small scale industries, and this enabled for smaller industries to come up, and there was this inequality reduced. Okay, but some of the economists are still critical of the performance of 1950 to 1990, especially the performance of public sector enterprises. Okay, because it was at this time most of the things are owned by the government, most of the industries. Okay, in fact, for telecommunications, no, it was long held by the public sector. And for example, public sector produces goods that are not that could be produced by the private sector. Okay, for example, they establish a modern bread manufacturing firm, like they say that whether private sector could not manufacturing modern bed. Government should be in sectors which are vital for the people and which are security reasons and other things. Otherwise, they should let others private sector to play a role by regulating it. Okay, so for a long time, India failed to make the distinction between what the public sector alone could uh, do and what the private sector alone should do. Okay, so unnecessarily India was so long involved in sectors which were which the private should have done. Okay, for example, government did manage hotels. Hotels could be done by private sector, but government did that. See, the government having less resources, it has to focus on more important matters, and other things should be left to the private. But the government spent too much on private sector, public sector for a long period of time. Okay, and whether they are producing profit, if they are producing profit, it is okay, but all these lot of these private public sector organizations were for a long period were incurring losses. Again, there it's also it is wasting money. Okay, first it is not uh, uh, it is not only doing things that could be done by private sector. Second is it is not doing it efficiently. These two are the problem with the uh, Indian private public sector between 1950 to 1990. Okay, uh, so some scholars, they say that government should get out of areas which the private sector could manage, and the government may concentrate its resources on important services which the private sector cannot provide. And here the government is still having this problem of what is called in economic as uh, Chakravyuha challenge. In fact, the economic survey termed this. That is, Chakravyuha, it's the Mahabharata concept where Abhimanyu go into this Chakravyuha. Okay, in fact, it is this uh, Abhimanyu knows how to go inside, but he does not know how to come out of it. Hence, he will be captured there and he will die there. Right? That is the story. The Chakravyuha challenge is also India has entered into areas like public sector in the 1950s because at that time it was required. But India has now have to come out of it. India is still facing the issue. They are not able to privatize a lot of things that they have entered earlier. Okay, that is what called the Chakravyuha challenge. Again, these kind of questions could be useful for you to write answers in examinations. Okay, so that is one problem with India. So many public sector firms are incurred huge losses but are still continued, and it is very difficult or almost impossible to close a government undertaking even when it is draining our national limited resources. Okay, and whenever a step is taken, it is criticized, a reform is taken, even so this is keep on going. Okay, so the license Raj system in the 1950s to 1970 helped the big industrial houses not to allow the budding entrepreneurs to grow, and it because of the license Raj, for any entrepreneur to start a new enterprises is very difficult. They have to get into this red tapeism and the corruption of the government institutions, and all these were the problems that were happening in the 1950s to 1970s. In fact, industrialists have to focus more on obtaining a license and lobbying with the concerned ministries rather than thinking of how to improve the products. And this was clearly shown in this Surya Reporter film, where Surya would be sitting in the office of a government employee, government department, getting license. Okay, and he will be very angered of this. Okay, and this is a reality in India. Okay, in fact, At present it is okay, somehow okay. If you go in the before 1990s to a government office, you would be treated like a, what you say, slave. Okay. Also, the protection of the from foreign competition is also being between the 1950s to 1990s were criticized that it continued even after it proved to be harmful for than the good. Okay. And in a world, globalized world like now, when developmental oriented prime minister like Modi also withdrawing from RCEP is a very poor thing for India, that India is still looking inward. Okay. And because of the restriction of imports, no, the tariffs and quotas that is protection that is given to our Indian industries, no, the Indian consumers had to purchase only what is produced by the local producers. Okay. See, I used previously TikTok, but since then I am not using any other product, because I find all these products doesn't have that kind of quality, and we have to live with these products. Okay. I am not blaming our Indian industries, they have to improve their quality, okay, to compete. I don't see, if our product is at the highest level of the quality, why we have to go for TikTok? Okay. Good thing the Smule is not a Chinese product, because otherwise it would have also been banned by our government. Okay. Okay. Because why can't we come up with a product that is as good as TikTok and as good as Smule? Why the consumers have to go for TikTok and Smule if the Indian manufacturers, Indian industries are producing products like that? I am giving an example that is to my level and to your understanding. There are plenty of this kind of examples in industries. Okay. So this will also, the protection from foreign competition, no, it will also protect them from competition, and this will result in they won't improve themselves, the Indian manufacturers, no. In fact, one of the reason still now our manufacturing industries are not competitive enough is because of this reason, because they won't have any incentive to improve the quality of their goods when the competition is not there. Okay. They have to compete with the international market to get the market. Okay. When they are competitive, they could play in the international arena, they could get market in China. Okay. That is how competitive we have to become, and that will not develop until we have come out of this protection. In fact, between 1950 to 1990, one of the problem was the protection from foreign competition. Okay. So that is why we want to we have to change our policy in the 1990s, when India faced the problem and we went for the economic reforms. Okay. So these are all the effects of the 1950 to 1990 economic policies. Okay. And this is a very important lesson. In fact, these kind of conceptual lessons will be very useful, and all these I have taken from the NCERT Indian economy book. Okay, all these points. In fact, I consider that book a very good book, having a very good points, basic points, but very important. You could write it even in for mains examination. Okay, a very, very important topic. So with this I end this lesson. We will see the economic reforms and the remaining plan in my next lesson. Okay. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and share. Bye.